So, Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn just ended. Welcome back to the W.A.D.E concept presented by The Ring Magazine. And folks, Conor Benn just dominated the rematch. It was not even close. From the first round on, this was a completely different fight from the first one. It was not in any way, shape, or form even round 13 of the 12 previous. This was a completely different Chris Eubank Jr., completely different Conor Benn, and an entirely different fight. And it was for a couple of different reasons. Number one, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. Chris Eubank Jr. did not look like himself at all. He looked frail. He looked slow. He looked flat-footed. He looked weight drained. I'll just say it. He looked weight drained. And I'm not even trying to offer excuses because I do think Conor Benn absolutely won this fight going away with the adjustments he made, but you'd have to be crazy to not consider the fact that the guy that has had a rehydration clause now twice, 2 fights in a row, and is cutting to 159 for this fight, so he didn't miss weight and have to give away another Rolls Royce. This had to have affected him twice in 10 months, or a little bit less than. So that part of it, I think, was massive. For sure. Just talking about the fight itself, it was also Conor Benn looked big and strong and explosive, fast and twitchy, and he carried that throughout the fight. Just like it wasn't the same Chris Eubank Jr., it definitely wasn't the same Conor Benn. And all the stuff that happened in the first fight definitely affected this one as well. I mean, both guys took a ton of damage in that first fight. And again, this is less than a year ago. Conor Benn, a younger, more spry, probably easier to recover fighter. Chris Eubank Jr., I mean, it looked like his face was stung by bees after the first fight. It looked like the swelling would never go down on his face. And so he took a ton of damage. I think he didn't show up on camera for like a week and a half, 2, 3 weeks. And it was like he was coming out of a coma, damn near. So having all that said, coming into this fight, it felt like, can Chris Eubank Jr. still do it one more time, or did he get too much taken out of him from the first fight? And I think that, again, is a contributor to what happened here tonight. Weight drain, sure. A lot of damage taken in the first fight, absolutely. But you got to give credit where it's due. Conor Benn completely changed how he was going to fight this fight. And they told you how he was going to do it. Tony Sims was saying, we're going to box more this time. We're going to be more patient. Conor Benn was saying, I'm not going to go in there emotional. I'm going to work at boxing range. I'm going to outbox Chris. And I thought he was crazy. I said, there's no way. The first fight showed us you can't box with Chris. It showed us he was going to outbox you again. If that's the route you want to take, you need to make this a dogfight. You need to make this a scrap. And I was flat out wrong. This is why I sit in the chair behind the camera and the professionals do the boxing. Because Conor Benn not only outboxed Chris for some rounds or most rounds, he did it the entire fucking fight. And he did it off a jab, to the body and upstairs. Variety in the lead hand, variety in the backhand. I thought one of the things that Conor Benn didn't do in the first fight was the fact that he didn't go to the body really at all. He didn't really have any sort of intention to the body and then going back upstairs. Instead, it was all head hunting. It was all big-time power, looping shots, and once he got into range, looking back at that first fight, Eubank Jr. was there to counter him with crisp punches on the inside and then get back to his jab. What happened in this fight from round 1 was Conor Benn was initiating like he was in the first fight, but he was doing it behind his jab so that even if he missed or if he jab committed to the right hand, he could get back to a long guard, which you wouldn't see normally from a smaller fighter, but a long, rangy guard with the lead hand and get back to range. And it frustrated Eubank Jr. and it stifled him and it made him clinch at air or jab at air or stumble over his front feet, look off balance, kind of just look like he was just not even there. And that happened round after round after round. I mean, we're talking 5, 6, 7 rounds into this. Conor Benn hasn't lost a round yet, and all off his jab, all off the feints, and then the big explosive jab in the right hand behind it. And fair play to Chris Eubank Jr. because up until the 12th round, he took some massive, massive shots with the right hand to the body upstairs. One of them, he looked like Fat Joe leaning back on the ropes after he took a right hand, and I thought that was the one that was going to break it. He toughed it out, but I was so shocked by the difference that we saw from Chris Eubank Jr. And again, fair play to Conor Benn, the difference we saw in his offensive game plan. He never took a back step. He was front foot on the pedal all night, but it was far more controlled. It was done from the outside in versus working just exclusively on the inside. And again, there were moments for Eubank Jr. Where he would find, success in combinations. It was clear they wanted to draw Conor in, and I think they banked on the fact that Conor Benn would be emotional, and that once he got to range, he would want to take Chris's head off so bad that he would just stay in range and slug it out. And they probably liked their chances in those moments where Conor brought the action. Chris could make him miss, and throw his combinations, make him pay, and then he could leave the exchange. That's not what ended up happening. Conor would get in, throw what he wanted to get, and then get out before Chris was able to counter and throw back. And it frustrated Eubank. You could see it. And as much as the pageantry around the fight, I mean, let's be honest, this entire rematch was about the Ben Eubank rivalry restored, not just from the fathers, but from the sons. And it was this story of, Chris Eubank's interaction with Conor Benn, kind of treating him like a little brother. I mean, even in the walkouts, you had Conor Benn come out with a fantastic walkout, but then you had Chris Eubank Jr. walk to the ring with 3 different 50 Cent songs playing, and 50 Cent in the arena walking beside him performing them. It felt like his aura was different. So leading into the fight, you felt like that was going to take over. Again, this emotional output from Conor Benn trying to get the respect of Chris Eubank, and it went completely the other way. This is why combat sports can be so unpredictable. But at the same time, in retrospect, you can look back after this performance and go, yeah, no, that makes sense because of the factors that maybe you wanted to put away in the back of your head. The fact that Eubank Jr. did take a beating in that first fight, even though he won. The fact he's 36, the fact that he came off 2 rehydration clauses and a pretty tough weight cut, it looks like. All of that makes sense. And the fact that, by the way, Conor Benn can fucking punch. This is a former 147 pounder punching the head off a 160 pounder. Really, 168 pounder is where Chris Eubank Jr. should be. But anyway, round by round, this thing went by, and you just started to see the hope and the faith and the spark just dim further and further for Chris Eubank Jr. Senior. On the outside, you would think he'd be doing his dance, Simply the best, that whole thing. That's not what was happening. There was genuine concern on Senior's face. Him trying to get in the corner. He wasn't yelling no Rastafari. It wasn't none of that. It was like, we need to change this now. This fight's getting away from us. And it just kept getting further and further away. You think, okay, maybe Conor Benn, because he's so explosive, because he's so twitchy and he's so bouncy. I mean, even walking to the ring, he was like going crazy. He's going to gas. He didn't. Felt like he maybe even got stronger as the rounds went on. Because as we got into the championship rounds and as it became more and more desperation time for Chris Eubank Jr., we get to the 12th round and he needs a knockout. There was no decision going his way. You could even argue that he hadn't won a round to that point. Some of the scorecards even reflected that. So in that 12th round, he opens up a little more, gets a bit more offensive, and you see the reason why he didn't want to do that. You see the reason why he didn't want to be front foot on the offensive, trying to walk down Conor Benn and start the exchanges. It was because the more he got offensive, the more he opened up, the more he wanted to bring the fight to Conor Benn, the more he was going to get tagged for it. And boy, in that 12th round did he get tagged. And this was the moment that gave me goosebumps. This was the moment that went, okay, this is Conor Benn finally getting his retribution. Not just for him, not just for his family's name, for his father, but for all the stuff that's gone on in his career, all the external kind of distractions, all the things inside the ring, the last fight, all of it. He dropped Chris Eubank Jr. Jab, right hand, right behind the ear, and Chris Eubank had like the ghost scaries. He popped back up, the legs stiffened, and he fell down. And one of the craziest visuals, I don't know if you'll see it online, I assume you will, was Eubank is in the corner and there's a camera shot right behind Eubank Jr. looking into the other corner as well, the neutral corner where Conor Benn had to stand. The referee's counting in Chris Eubank Jr.'s face, and you see Conor Benn behind the referee going, yeah, yeah, like he could go 3 or 4 more rounds and just having this emotional outburst like, I got you. Finally, I told everybody I could knock you down. I told everybody I could hurt you, and I got you. And it was in the 12th round. He had already won the fight, but he wanted to show in that moment that I'm still going to dog this out and still try to put you on your ass. He actually knocked him down one more time in the round, and eventually, obviously, the fight came to an end. Complete domination. I think the judges' scorecards had it 118, 108, and then I think 2 judges had it that, and then a 119, 107. But regardless, it was domination from start to finish from Conor Benn. He got on the microphone and had, again, just an emotional kind of moment where, Nigel Benn is emotional. Conor's emotional. The Benns get their first win over the Eubanks, right? Finally, the curse is reversed. Not the W.A.D. curse, because that seems to be undefeated. I picked Chris Eubank Jr. It happens. Continually happens. I may need to see someone. But at the end of this entire thing, you have to ask questions for both fighters as to what happens next. Chris didn't look good. And I don't mean didn't look good just at a high level. He didn't look good as a boxer. We may need to be talking about retirement for Chris Eubank Jr. It was scary watching how, like, every punch, it felt like, from Conor Benn shocked Eubank. Like, the way a body shouldn't be responding to punches as a professional. Like, he didn't have it anymore. Again, was that part of the weight cut? Was it part of just him getting older? I don't know. But if he's going to continue fighting, it shouldn't be at 160. It shouldn't be with rehydrations. He should move up to 168. I don't know that it would be recommended for him anymore. I mean, he's done pretty much what I think he can do. I don't see Chris Eubank Jr. as a world champion level boxer, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but it's just, who are you going to get? You're going to go fight Terrence Crawford at 168? You're going to go fight Canelo at 168? You're going to go fight Hamza Shiraz at 168? Carlos Adames at 160? Like, what are we doing? He says he wants to come back, maybe do the trilogy. I don't think there's any shot in hell they do a trilogy after that fight. There ain't no way you do a trilogy there. That doesn't make any sense. Because what happened in this fight showed me that the first fight was Chris Eubank Jr. left everything in that first fight. He had nothing left to give. The fact that he even went the distance, looking the way he looked, is kind of shocking. But Conor Benn then knocking him down in the 12th. If they did a third fight, Conor Benn would knock his head off his shoulders. And I don't think that's something anybody wants to see. A shot version of Eubank Jr. having to go through another weight cut and rehydrate. I don't want to see that. So let's just not do the trilogy. I think Eubank needs to take a long time off if he even wants to fight ever again. He's made all the money. I don't see the reason for it. He just had 2 kids, so he's kind of won at life here, you know? And for Conor Benn, he got on the mic and said, I want to return down to 147. He talked about Mario Barrios and his WBC belt, talked about Ryan Garcia. I'll be honest with y'all, one of the biggest problems about this kind of catch weight deal, it wasn't a catch weight, but him moving to 160 and fighters doing this in the prime of their career, is that it's very hard once your body adjusts to a certain weight, whether it's by muscle, water retention, whatever, to then strip it all away and try to get back to where you were as a younger man. He's only getting older. He's only going to get heavier. So how can he get back to 147? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he can do it. It's going to be just as brutal a weight cut for him now as the weight cut, I think, for Chris Eubank Jr. was to get to 160. And as far as if you don't go to 147, you're going to go to 154 and fight Boots? Guys like Fundora, he's like 6'5". Even Xander Zayas, Virgil Ortiz, you're going to give him... I don't see any matchup there right now for Conor Benn, but I see a lot of people at 147 I'd love to watch him against. Yeah, give him Mario Barrios. He's probably going to starch Mario Barrios if they fought. Ryan Garcia, love that matchup. Rolly, love all those. But can he get to 147? I don't know. But what a fight. What a night. Complete domination. That's all I can say, man. I'm sure there's going to be more that comes out on this, on Twitter, on socials, everything else. But the one thing I'll say is it looked very different, this rematch. And the adjustments were fully made by Conor Benn. Flat out, he outboxed Chris Eubank Jr. But Chris Eubank Jr. looked like a shell of himself. I'm sorry. He did. No excuses. He took the fight. He took the rehydration clause. He checked all those boxes and decided to sign on the dotted line. But it doesn't change the fact that my 2 eyes saw a guy in there that was a ghost to the dude in the first fight. Whether he didn't show up prepared, whether he just had a mental block, whatever, didn't look great. And Conor Benn fully took advantage of that moment. Great win for him. What happens next for both guys? I don't have those answers, but guess we'll find out.